What's up, Justin?
Yo,
What's up,
yo,
Scott?
yo.
It's Tuesday. What does that mean?
Taco Ball
Well,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Taco Bell Jones.
We have ourselves a special guest. Scott Umble is joining us to catalog the least deserving, most valuable players of the last 2 decades plus.
Yep.
Scott, before we can get into that, we need to hear a little bit about where your NBA fandom lies, your allegiance, and we need to hear the most memorable Taco Bell story you got.
That sounds like a perfect place to jump on. Let's see here. My allegiance would be with the Philadelphia 76ers, being a general Philadelphia greater area growing up. Sixers is the team. Remember seeing Charles Barkley when I was just a little tot. He was the man. Then he left, like all the great athletes do from Philly.
Like Simmons is going to?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
4 more years. 4 more.
Yeah, man, he's gonna be taking a pay cut. Ironically, behind you, Justin, would be my next team. So the San Antonio Spurs. Thank you, the Admiral. I just love David Robinson as a kid, man. He was just the man.
Man.
And then they pull in my boy Tim Duncan. So it just kind of extended my Spurs run. And I went to see Lonnie Walker play a good bit in high school. He's from Reading High School, so
Really?
he's actually the kid's a stud when he was playing for Reading. So I kind of like watching him too. Still kind of follow the Spurs. They'd be number 2, but we're going Sixers, Spurs, and then everybody else pretty much.
Oh man, I didn't know that about Lonnie Walker. Where he played high school ball. That's cool.
Or that you were a closet Spurs fan.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
That too.
Or not.
I mean, a closet Spurs fan. I guess it's just never come up before. I don't try to hide it much. So Taco Bell. I don't have like a single great story about Taco Bell, except I can claim that I once had it. I'm pretty sure it was 7 consecutive meals. And it was, yeah. So 07 road trip out to Oregon, a couple friends and I was heading out there to live for a year with a couple buddies, and we had, I don't know, Taco Bell's cheap, so you buy it, and it was like a lunch and dinner back to back. And then it's got like the next morning, dude, we had lunch and dinner. We got to do breakfast now too, right? So we did breakfast, and then it just snowballed from there. We're like, well, we already had 3 in a row. It's got to be 4. Now it's got to be 5. Anyhow, we pretty much got up through, I forget if it was 7 or 8 in a row, but by what would have been the 3rd breakfast, we were all like, there is not a chance. We cannot do it.
So a couple questions come to mind. One,
There's no way to ask it nicely. Just ask it.
I'll let the viewers just sort of figure it out for themselves. But one, this was before Taco Bell had breakfast. So what exactly were you having for breakfast? Was it cold from the night before, or were you just getting burritos early enough in the morning?
It was like 10 a.m. burritos, basically. Yeah.
Just like the regular menu, just early, as soon as they opened.
It was a meal. It was, well, you know, Taco Bell, it's pretty much the same meal in different varieties. So it was
correct. Well, so have you ever had Taco Bell when it's been cold, like left over from before?
I don't know that I have. No, I've never sunk to those depths. I don't believe. Taco Bell is just, it's glorious in its normal form, but it's got to be warm. I don't think I can do that.
Fair enough.
Anyhow, 7 meals in a row. It was.
And how many dudes in a car?
3 of us.
And how many breaks for 7 straight meals? Or like,
clearly we weren't counting. I should have just sent a couple texts to find out if it was 7 or 8, but I don't recall how many stops. I imagine at least that many, but it was pretty glorious.
That is impressive. That's an impressive.
It was also like, it was end of August, so the windows were down anyways, and that was a glorious boost to our trip, because it would have been pretty miserable without it.
I salute you, sir. I am in awe of the streak. Perhaps one day I'll build up enough intestinal fortitude to give it a run for its money.
Yeah, emphasis
Maybe.
on the run.
All right. I love it. A fellow Ben Simmons aficionado joining the cast, and can't wait to see how his tenure turns out. Until then, we have our
Speaking
topic du jour.
But real quick before we hop off that, I just saw an alert, didn't read it yet, an hour ago. Ben Simmons is now refusing to meet with Sixers physicians or whatever doctor personnel to evaluate his mental strength in order to play. Ooh. He just flat out won't even show up for that. It's like, you know that you're going to fail the test when you're refusing to show up for your mental strength test.
I guess I don't understand. If you were refusing to show up or talk to anybody on the team, outside of coming so that you could get your paycheck, you showed up just so that you could attempt to do the Jimmy Butler, but nobody on your team is actually threatened by you or inferior to you in terms of basketball. So, like, what did you even accomplish? Because you still didn't get paid for anything. So why didn't you just continue to refuse to show up from somewhere else?
That's right. Another reason he might fail that mental health examination.
So before we leave the topic of the Sixers, I got to ask Scott, as you're evaluating this season as a Sixers fan, do you think they will go further than they did last year in the playoffs with the squad that they have in place right now?
It's going to depend on how Harris can pull himself together. Like, he might be out for a little while too. But honestly, no. I think what goes unnoticed with Ben Simmons is that he can distribute the ball. Danny Green and Seth Curry both benefited from him quite a bit, being open all the time. But the defense, like, I mean, he did make Trae Young. Trae still scored his 25 points, but it was on like 7 for 24 shooting. So 2 series back to back where he's shutting down the team's superstar. Without that, I can't see us going anything beyond second round again. That's I hope I'm wrong, but it's kind of where I'm at with him.
Interesting. See, I think Justin and I, we're just hoping more space, more touches for Joel Embiid to put together an absolute like monster season and stay healthy and just ride that roller coaster.
Oh, I agree. Embiid should be the MVP this season if he stays healthy. Like, his numbers, I mean, not that, as we'll see shortly, that numbers necessarily dictate winning an MVP, but if that were, he should be there. So we'll see what happens.
All right. I have more to say about this, but let's kick off a quick recap of we just did sort of the last 20 years in depth, but basically as far back as we can remember, sort of in our NBA fandom. So our lifetime, our generation, the least deserving, most valuable players. Scott, give us a little recap of who deserved nothing in the 90s and got all of the glory.
Well, yeah, so we're starting to
hold up 1 second. I think we need to break that down a little bit further. What do you mean by least deserving MVP? Okay, that might be a little confusing. What do we mean by that?
I mean,
my definition is basically like, even if you're an all-time great player, but the year that you won the MVP, there maybe were 4 or 5 players that had better stats than you that year, then that'd be the least deserving.
I am also going to throw in, just because some of the years that I looked at player-to-player comparisons versus like 1 versus 2 in the rankings to see who deserved it and who did not. So whether 5 guys were better than you or whether 1 guy just was clearly better than you, you didn't deserve to win MVP. I looked at a lot of things, not just team record, teammates, minutes played. All right, so not just your straight stats, but were you available? How many games did you play? How many minutes per game were you playing? Were your teammates total garbage, or were you playing with some perennial all-stars? So I think as we list some of our top least deserving candidates, we will sort of detail what was important and what's not, the criteria that actually go into that.
Correction. Justin will detail that. What he's saying in a nicer way is that he had several criteria, and I pretty much looked at the stat page.
No, I think that's good context, because that, to me, that's kind of the raging debate that goes on is, okay, is this the player that had the statistically strongest season compared to any other player, or the team that like most impacted, most willed their team to win?
Or was it the player that got robbed in years past, so they just gave it to them even though it was not a good season?
Yep.
Yeah, these are all very important questions that we'll be answering shortly.
I think we have some obvious ones, and then I think there may or may not be a couple that I'm sort of shied away from so as not to offend an entire horde of insane fans. But I think I'm just going to put it out there anyways when the time comes. So,
well, speaking of that criteria, let's look at the list, because if we go, maybe just a couple years before where we decided to start, you see the name Karl Malone sandwiched there between one Michael Jordan, and we just know that's bull crap. Like, we got sick of handing every finals MVP, regular season MVP, defensive player of the year award, first team all NBA,
scoring title,
first team all MVP, or all defense, scoring title. They all went to Michael Jordan. So we just decided to sneak Karl Malone in here that year. But then finals MVP over Karl Malone in 6 games anyways. So we kind of know who deserved that one. So 99, Michael Jordan's out of the league. Now we can actually justifiably give Karl Malone one. So we should have just waited on 97, but now Karl Malone's got 2 in his pocket. Starting in 2000, Shaq. Yep. Is that Shaq's only MVP? That is. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's like
really? Yeah, okay. That's
Shaq and Kobe combined for 2 MVPs ever.
Wild.
That doesn't even make sense. Steve Nash got back to, all right. Okay. In a minute.
So someone's getting worked up here.
I'm so mad.
Are you checking the vote here in 2000, Justin?
I can. Yeah. We're looking at Shaq's vote.
Yeah.
Yep. Not looking good here on the internet, Justin.
Here we go. Is this what you're looking for? The voting for 2000?
Yeah. All right. So that one is just pretty much a no-brainer. So we'll give it to him. Where was Iverson at that point? He's down. Okay. Yeah. He's still not quite coming into his own, I guess. But all right.
No gripes with Shaq.
Absolutely deserved that one. Just absolutely deserved a few more in his stellar career. That's crazy. Like top 4 center of all time and won 1 MVP despite winning 5 championships. I kind of lost track after he left the Lakers, but I don't know. He won a bunch. 4 with the Lakers for sure. All right.
3, I think, with the Lakers and 1 with Miami.
Did he leave? Did he leave?
He left before. Yeah, he left after the first 3-peat, and then or after the 3-peat, because each of them wanted their own glory and to be credited with being the reason they won. But he got another one with Wade.
Yeah, and that was it. because he dabbled with like the Celtics in the twilight of his career, and then he was
and the Cavs and Phoenix.
Yeah,
He ended
nowhere
with
there.
Phoenix, right?
What'd you say?
I think he ended with Phoenix, right? That was the last team that
The end.
he played for.
I don't know about
Celtics
that.
were last, I think.
Yeah, I think he went there after he left the Cavs, somewhere in there. But
okay. Now here we go. We don't have Shaq. Cool. All right, Iverson, 2001. Very happy with that one.
Yes.
Might be a little biased on that one, but that dude.
Yes, all my Philly fans, big time on AI.
Best little guard of all time, though. So he deserves one in there. That season was incredible. 01-02, Tim Duncan. 02-03, Tim Duncan. Those didn't show up, but now that we're talking about Shaq, I wonder if one of those years would have been a year that maybe Shaq had a say. I don't know. Duncan's kind of your best power forward of all time, or close to it. But
yeah,
I'm happy with Tim Duncan having a couple of trophies, but not real happy with Shaq just having one.
Yeah, let's take a look at those votes with Tim Duncan real quick, just to see how Shaq fared against Timmy B.
01? 01,
yeah,
02?
First one he won, his first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's that? Shaq in third.
Jason Kidd.
I think some voters trying to set a precedent for what was to come.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing else there that I look at besides Shaq, but that's pretty comparable. So we'll give it to him.
Yeah, and I mean, what's really interesting about those 02 NBA Finals, we had Shaq as the Finals MVP. And
well, Shaq, he got third, but he only played 67 games that year. So as phenomenal as his stats were, I feel like you need to, whether due to injury or not, you got to have a little more there. So
I think did they beat the Nets that year? They beat Kidd, right?
Yeah, it was 4-0 in the finals. Lakers over the Nets. Before we jump off of this, Justin, I want to hear what are some of, when you're looking at these stat lines, what are some of the key numbers you're looking at? So games played has come up, and then what are some of the other pieces that jump out to you?
Well, I mean, clearly you're going to look at your points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks a little bit. But I like to look at games played. So Duncan destroyed him by playing all 82. Then your minutes played. He played 40 plus minutes per game. All right. So it's not like
82 games. That's incredible.
Yeah. He was playing an insane amount of minutes, had very comparable stats, 25 to 27, 12 to 10. All right, 3.7 to 3, steals and blocks, roughly the same. Then your field goal percentage. Shaq dominated on field goal percentage, which would be standard for a center at that time. But then you look all the way at the last column, that's like your win shares per like 48 minutes. So if you averaged out Duncan's stats over 48, if he played every minute of the game, how much was he helping his team win over what a standard replacement would be for him? So 257, obviously the higher the numbers there, like, the bigger the drop off is if you take that guy and pluck him off of the team.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. It's really interesting how similar the win share is over 48 minutes for Duncan and O'Neal, and then how low it is for Kidd.
Yeah. Like, and then you could click on underneath team San Antonio Spurs there. If you click on that, it'll give you what their record was that season. So if I'm really going into it, I'll look and see, 58 and 24, and then I'll go back and see where did the Lakers finish and see what their record was, like who helped their team to a better record. But I mean, clearly just Duncan being available almost 20 more games than Shaq is more value to his team because your availability needs to factor.
Wasn't Duncan seven? He was a 7-footer as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he hit 80% on free throws. That's pretty insane too. Did I just see that? 0.79
for free throw percentage.
0.799. That's pretty incredible for a 7-footer.
And
Yeah.
Also,
he
2.5 blocks is an insane season.
And he did not shoot that well later, like from free throw. A lot of the games I remember watching him, he was not anywhere close to 80% from free throw.
Yeah,
right, so I think I think we could agree he was pretty deserving that year.
Yep, close, but the only
we could look at his next
that year was
season.
Jason Kidd.
We could look at the 02-03 just real quick at a glance to see how Shaq and him compared. And then we probably see Shaq had a better year than Kevin Garnett that year, but Kevin Garnett had a pretty crazy defensive year as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Duncan, Garnett, Bryant, McGrady. So O'Neal, only 67 games again. So again, not playing all those games. That's why Shaq, I would say, wasn't put up higher with the voters. Those top three guys all played basically every game.
Wow, so, Tracy McGrady with a career high 75 games played.
Was Shaq? Can you recall if he was battling any injuries that season, or was he just not getting as many? Yeah, like I didn't realize that, just that difference between number of games played between him and everyone else.
So I think he had a decent amount of injuries throughout his career, but I mean, especially when you're that size and when you're after he left Orlando, he definitely gained weight. So he wasn't as
a lot of trouble. And I think that was routine through a lot of his career, especially at the end.
Yeah. Like I remember he came to Cleveland and he was like his preseason press conference. He came there for like 1 year. He was like, I'm going to win a ring for the king was his like big slogan. And then he didn't play until like after the All-Star break because he had like a bad toe or something. And I'm like, what? Like he came and then like played like barely half the games that year. I was like, this guy's old. He's way out of shape and then doesn't even play. And we're paying him like he was just a total bum then. I was so mad.
Anderson Varejao took his place in the lineup. It's not bad, Shaq. Just retire.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what jumped out to me is just how much older Shaq was when he's still playing. These are phenomenal numbers, but he's 30 years old.
You could look at those top two lines. Kevin Garnett could have easily beaten Tim Duncan that year because they have identical points, almost identical games and minutes. He's got half a rebound more, 2 more assists than him. Field goal percentage were both high. Their win shares not that far apart. I mean, Kevin Garnett was playing on, I don't know. Duncan still had was Robinson still around at that point?
He would have been, yeah.
And I don't know at what point Parker and Manu show up. I feel like Parker's first year was like 03 maybe.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. I could be wrong about that.
The Sean Elliott, Steve Kerr time in there.
And Kevin Garnett, he was playing with maybe Latrell Sprewell. He was like, was that the first time that Minnesota had made the playoffs? Probably the last time.
One of those years, though, they lost in the Western Conference Finals to the Lakers. That might have been this year. They got real far that one year.
Yeah, and that's that.
Speedy Claxton, yeah.
Oh man, I don't even recognize this guy. No, and I think I'm glad we're talking about Kevin Garnett and the Timberwolves, because I think that's part of the narrative is like, are you part of a team that is making a deep run in the playoffs and very likely winning the championship as well? So to me, that's probably played part of it, that Kevin Garnett had the Timberwolves made a far run.
And then the next
could have won it.
Yeah, but he wins it next year. So if we look at that, did he necessarily have the best season, or are they almost rewarding him for the previous year's accomplishments?
Yeah.
Let's see. 0304. We can also, pop open the Timberwolves season. So, let's start with the stats first.
So him and Duncan go 1-2 again.
Jermaine O'Neal. Wow.
Yes.
Wow, look at that year. You got Jermaine O'Neal and Peja Stojakovic taking third and fourth. That is amazing.
Meanwhile, Kobe and Shaq at 5'6",
Wow.
and then they just like
Yeah, good grief.
Just insane.
Yikes.
And that's the infamous 0304 Jermaine O'Neal Pacers. That's the infamous Malice at the Palace,
Malice at the Palace, baby.
Oh.
Oh, I love it.
And then let's see. So I opened this other tab because I want to see. So how did the Timberwolves do? They finished first division.
58.
Yeah, 58 wins.
They won first round against Denver, semifinals. Then they lost to the Lakers.
That is the year they got there. Yeah. Yep.
What seed would that have put them in? Yeah, I mean, look at this supporting cast. Wally Zerbiak. Yes.
Dude, my boy Sally Zerbiak, he had to spend some time trying to help LeBron win too.
And the former number 1 pick, the Candyman Michael Olowokandi.
Fred Hoiberg.
Oh, Gary Trent Sr.
Some of these names, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a lot of history to cover here. All
right, so
we made it to 0304. Let's pick up the pace, boys.
All right.
Well, that's good.
We're going to slow things down here.
More time.
Yeah, we're going to slow things down here a bit because we're going to get to the first crime against humanity. And are we in 0304 or 0405 now?
405.
0405.
Hit it solid long because that's where my eyes rested on the next name on the page.
So I guess we're going to talk about both of these years. We could just say he's the least deserving two-time back-to-back MVP of all time because
all-time least deserving MVP.
Yes,
not once, but twice.
Yes, 2 years in a row they gave him the MVP. And 05-06 I looked at one single comparison, but 04-05 I listed 4 guys that could beat him, and Scott, you gave me 2 more. So there's 6 guys had a better season than Steve Nash.
7 now because Tracy McGrady was healthy one of those years at least. So yeah, this is insane,
dude.
0405, we're looking right at it.
So here's my theory. All right, we were coming off of the Michael Jordan hangover. He wasn't here to win championships anymore. The Wizards experiment didn't quite get him back to that point. Duncan won a couple in a row. Duncan and Garnett were these athletic power forwards. They were going to win a few if we didn't vote somebody else in. We knew that LeBron was in his, third year at that point. We knew he was going to win like 13 MVPs at that time, we thought. So we can't give it to him quite yet. And, there's Shaq and there's Dirk and there's AI, who happened to average twice as many points per game as in that year.
It's criminal. 15 points per game. Criminal.
Let's just go ahead and pretend like assists are the big deal. And the Suns went to the Western Conference Finals 1 or 2 of those years, so we'll just do it. But it was also insane because we've seen the Mike D'Antoni offenses since then. Harden, it's like all run through the point guard, and so they either score or assist on every play down the floor that's not a fast break. So their stats look incredible, and they're not really that special comparatively. They just get the ball all the time.
Yes, he gets the ball, one pass, and then a shot. So whoever he was throwing to was like just high volume, and it's just totally outrageous to me.
Yep.
Yeah, that he had Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire, who were both listed on the MVP voting list. So he played with like 2 other guys that were top 15 MVP voting that year. Like, I just can't.
Look down the points column. There are literally like the next 12 guys all average at least, well, Duncan in there at 20, but he's 20 and 11. Everybody else has 22 points per game or more, and Nash at the top with 50.
And 2.5 blocks.
So here's my question then. Why is there anything here that justifies why he should win this, or any other narrative for why he deserved this?
Was this a shortened season? Because, well, I guess not. There's 3 guys. So there's one guy that played 82 games, a couple guys that played 80, but like everybody else is in the 70s or 60s. Is that Phoenix had the number 1 record in the league, and he was considered their best player because he facilitated them being successful. And that's really all I think
they made it to the Western Conference Finals. I think they nearly beat, who would have been the Spurs?
They lost 4-1 to the Spurs.
Okay, it was the next year then. They lost in Game 7 to, I was thinking it was the Lakers one of those years. They were so close to getting to the finals.
But these things get voted on prior to, or at least they had been getting voted on prior to the playoffs even happening. So like,
that's right.
They really were just focusing on that. Like, unless they were focusing on the previous season, like this year they went to the Western Conference Finals. So they're like, oh, well, he needs to get it next. That plays into what he's going to get next year. Like in recent years, Giannis not even getting to an Eastern Conference Finals. They're like, well, we can't give him MVP because he can't even get through the playoffs. But
okay, just for sake of laughing at this, you need you need a floor general for your team. You need a point guard. You need a little guy that can run the ball up the field, distribute it, or score. Are you taking the guy that won the MVP, or are you taking the other little guard that went 5th in the MVP voting that year? Allen Iverson, 30 points a game,
42 minutes,
8 assists, like literally 2.5 times as many steals per game on the defensive side. It is just unbelievable to me.
So so this is the 04 to 05, and then who wins the next season?
Well, the only question I have about this is which year was the most undeserving, because they both are all times.
All right, so this one, 04-05 was really undeserving because like 8 other people had a better year than him.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look. So in 05-06, I really only looked at 2 comparisons, and this was in my top 3. So I had three top ones. So this one, I literally just looked at Steve Nash versus LeBron, and I thought to myself, this just even makes no sense. Same amount of games. LeBron played 7 more minutes per game than Steve Nash. All right, so the total number of minutes was just like ridiculous. All right, almost double the points, 3 more rebounds, 3.5 less assists. So balance out your rebounds and assists. Say that comes to a wash. Twice as many steals as your small point guard, LeBron. Twice as many steals. Field goal percentage, 51 and 48, not that far off. Win totals, 54 and 50. So then you look at the fact that Steve Nash was on a Western Conference Finals team who had the aforementioned Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion, and LeBron was on a Cavs team who hadn't sniffed Bubkiss, and their next best player was maybe Larry Hughes that year, and or Drew Gooden, who I mean,
who?
Yes, like what are we even talking about? I mean, go ahead and look at even Dirk Nowitzki's year. I would say that was better.
Well,
Kobe Bryant, 41 minutes, 35 points, 5 and 4.5, 1.8 steals.
Yeah. Okay. Also, looking at this list, you got 1 through tied for 10, 1 through 11. There are 3 guys with over 30 points per game. And I know points isn't everything, yada, yada, whatever. But Steve Nash with 18 points per game beats LeBron at 31, Kobe Bryant with 35 points a game, and Allen Iverson at 33 in his 30-year-old season. Good grief.
Hey,
Yep.
but outcome of an NBA game is determined by the team with the most points, right? So points will always be to me, one of the most important figures. No matter what. Yeah, points is always going to be part of that dynamic.
You got to give it to Steve Nash. He did it 92% of his free throws.
Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki with a measly 90%. What a slouch.
Get him out of here. Yeah.
So it seems like
Wait, Justin, can you go back to the list of all the MVPs? Bring that
Sure.
screen up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious where the 18 points ranks. Oh, I see. That's embarrassing. Is there anyone else that's won an MVP that's under like 26?
Steve Nash, the
the other year.
Dirk Nowitzki the next year with 24.5, and Kevin Garnett the year before with 24. So, but yeah, that's 23 seems to be the other lowest.
These are the two absolute lowest average points across the season
by like 5 points a game
for every single year.
Up a good bit higher than most of the other years, but that does not justify, like, another 4 or 5 assists a game does not justify minimum 5 to 15 points lower than all
and
seasons.
It's not as if in like 2004 to 2006 scoring across the NBA was down drastically. Like there were guys, as we said, 30, 35 points a game.
Yep.
So
all right, I feel like we hammered that one home.
Yeah,
I think we found our all-time in that. Although I actually have another dark horse in here that'll probably get some slack from you guys, but we'll get
I have one. I have one as well that might get some slack from a lot of people, but I don't.
I hope we agree.
I do too.
So Dirk the next year, I didn't really look deep into this one, but this could be a candidate for Dirk's the guy that's just been around and takes his team to the NBA championship, and
should have won it the year before.
Yeah, should have won the year before.
So maybe not this one. Well, all right, not the year before. I think LeBron should have won 05-06, but Dirk could have won either of the two that Nash won.
Yeah,
and it would have been less of a crime.
Nash was runner-up this year too. Good
dude,
grief.
Outrageous.
Why?
28 years old, 32-year-old, 28-year-old, 30-year-old. Man.
The NBA was aging.
Seriously.
Yeah, so LeBron finishes 5th with 27-6. That's a
27, 6 and 6, 6.7 and 6. 1.6 steals.
Yeah. I mean, LeBron should not have been 5th, but honestly, when I look at that, that's a pretty darn good season from Dirk, and there's nobody else there besides Kobe, maybe LeBron, that I'd look at that say they should have been a little higher up. But I mean, Dirk needed one. He deserved one. He's right up there.
I can't gripe about that one too much at all. At all, really. I have almost no qualms with Dirk winning that year.
Yep.
You know, something crazy I wanted to point out. I did not realize LeBron and Chris Bosh are the same age. That
Bosh is only in 1 year.
It boggles my mind.
And
I think because Bosh's career ended earlier. I don't know. I always thought he was older.
Yeah.
Well, Carmelo's the same age.
Just because he looked like a dinosaur.
Carmelo's the same age, and Wade came in that draft class, and I forget that he was 3 years older because he spent time at Marquette actually developing and winning a championship or making a Final Four run. But
I think Bosh was a freshman when he came out that year too, right?
Yeah, he was a freshman. Wade was there. Was he at Marquette more than 1 year? Or was he just,
he was only a year as well.
Yeah, because he's 3 years older than them, and they all got drafted together. But Bosh was at Georgia Tech for a year. Melo was at Syracuse for a year, and they won the championship. So it wouldn't have been Wade. But
where was Darko that year? Oh, so sad. The poor Pistons in the middle of like four, four All Stars and pulling off the upset on the Lakers and perennially being an Eastern powerhouse. They get
Yeah,
the second pick in one of the most loaded drafts of all time, and somehow come up with Darko Milicic.
dude.
What happened?
Imagine putting. So LeBron went first. They had second, so they could have had Bosh or Wade or what? Even Chris Paul that year,
Chris Paul,
or
yeah.
like anybody to add to that team of Ben Wallace,
Yep.
Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace,
Tayshaun Prince.
Tayshaun Prince. Like, all right.
Yeah. Anyhow, all right. So we're gonna say Dirk deserved that one for sure.
Yep,
06,
I agree.
07 is in the books.
Yeah.
07, 08.
Kobe's MVP.
This is
the lone MVP for Kobe,
which is unreal. Yeah. And yeah, well,
for lack of not insulting and getting a mob on my case of the 0 people that watch this, this would be in one of my top. This made honorable mentions just because I didn't want to offend a lot of people, but this,
I agree. This should have been a LeBron year again.
This is least deserving.
Yep.
Category for me.
However,
Kobe Bryant.
He did put up 82 games that year. And that was like what, his 11th year? Like that, what? No, 12th year. That would have been his 12th year. And he played.
He started 18, so yeah, that would have been 11th or 12th season.
He was a rookie in 96, so that would have been season number 12. He's like, that's a pretty good season. I know he's 29, but that's a pretty good season. That's still probably a LeBron thing.
Gosh,
I just don't understand how LeBron only finished 4th that year.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like, look at the stats. He has better stats in like every category than everybody on the list.
Of that list, all but Chris Paul and Tim Duncan came straight out of high school of the top 8. I think. Didn't Amari Stoudemire skip college?
I think so. I feel like Dwight was the last one to do it.
I think it was the last year they were allowed.
Yeah, they changed the rule after that season.
Chris Paul went to Wake, but Kobe came out in 96, Garnett 95, LeBron 03, whatever.
Yeah.
Howard 04, Stoudemire. I'm not sure. Maybe Stoudemire did go to a year of college somewhere. Duncan went. They all either went to Wake Forest or didn't go to college at all. That's Wake Forest recruiting right there. This year, the only players in the top 8 all went to Wake Forest or couldn't even make it to college.
Yeah, Stoudemire did not play college ball. He came out of Cypress High School in Orlando and came out of Florida's Mr. Basketball.
Yeah. So how do you categorize this year? Because I look at that and think that Kobe should have been probably number 2 on that list.
Yes.
But not to Chris Paul, to the guy that got 4th. But then if Kobe doesn't get this year, that means that Kobe Bryant plays his 19-year or 20-year NBA career winning 5 championships without ever winning an MVP.
I know. It doesn't even make sense because he deserved to win an MVP, but not this one.
Nope. He deserved one of Nash's and maybe Dirk's as well, even though Dirk deserved the other one of Nash's.
Yeah.
Seems like all these scenarios are pointing back to Steve Nash at the middle.
It's like they all got delayed by a year for when they were supposed to win because of Nash's 2 years. So they just piled them in afterwards.
So this one, all I can get over is like, I mean, this is 07, 08. This is like to be like, oh, well, LeBron's going to win plenty. Kobe's in year 11 or 12. He needs one. Like this could be his last chance to get one. I'm like, so yeah. Otherwise, there's nothing that says he had a better season than LeBron in those stats.
Yep.
Okay.
I might just have talked myself into bumping that up on my list, but I have two more that
Yeah, I got one more for sure, but actually kind of two, my dark horse. So we'll see how this one goes.
So that's 07, 08 Kobe Bryant. Let's move up in years here.
all right, so you're going to get zero complaints out of me for LeBron in 09, 10, or 9.
Obviously.
Yeah, 08, 09, 9,
completely
10.
unbiased Cavs fan here.
Yep.
Well, go ahead and look at them if you want.
Yeah, we got to look. That was when Kobe was starting to get injured, and that just felt like there was a little bit of lull right then with the NBA. So, like,
wow.
Yeah, Duncan was he was like getting kind of towards the end there a little bit. Not towards the end. I mean, he still won a championship or two after that, but he was not
or three.
the main guy.
3. What is going on?
What just happened here?
Website.
Wow.
Okay. I think we're being blocked. So maybe we'll look at the 09 to 10.
Yeah, I just want to say that when you clicked on that, the one stat I did see, look at his win shares was like 318. Do we see another MVP that had over 300 on that list?
Wow.
This one's 299. I mean,
KD, Kobe, Dwight Howard killing it with the Magic.
Hey, took him to the finals that year, right?
Yeah.
No, that was 9, 10.
Yeah, that's the year we're looking at.
Oh, I thought we were looking at. Oh, sorry. I'm
the
zoomed in too far. Yeah.
Load. Oh no, the 2010 playoffs. This is the Lakers beating the Celtics.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So then Lakers Magic was the next year?
No, the next year would have been the 2011, and that was the Heat losing to Dirk, I thought. So 10 was Lakers over Celtics. 9 was
Lakers over Magic.
9 was Lakers over Magic. 8 was Celtics over Lakers.
Yeah.
So something else I want to point out here is this. So for voting, for first, to me, I like looking at the first place votes because we were looking at some of I think the Steve Nash years. There was it was pretty close. It was almost like 50-50. And I mean, look at this. Out of 123 first place votes, got 116.
Yeah.
So to me,
but I also look at that, and there's not a lot of distance between LeBron and KD on that year. Assist is like the only thing that's a lot of difference.
Even win shares is strikingly close.
I think that's when you look at, well, the win shares is not actually close. When you look at that percentage over 48, 299 to 238 is a pretty big jump in terms of the win share. As we've noticed, we haven't even seen anybody over the 300, I don't think, other than LeBron the previous year. You look at who was he playing with, and it was like embarrassing at that stage. So, I mean, we can keep looking at this one, but I don't know if anybody has a gripe over how voting turned out that season.
I think we were just looking to see who else was in the running. I think that's all we were looking at, and that's when KD really started to. That was my biggest takeaway. Was just KD was really starting to light it up for OKC.
All right, this is. I think this is second place on my list.
Hey, we agree on this one. Derrick Rose, I assume you're referring to.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that name jumped off the page to me. Like, keep in mind his 22-year-old season was his last fully healthy season, so I guess we're glad we snuck him one then, but it was definitely not deserving.
And I didn't even compare him to who got second place in Dwight Howard. I had him compared to LeBron.
Right.
who nobody wanted to give him votes because he just won 2. Then he went to Miami and everybody hated him. But just, 81 games to 79, 37 minutes to 30, almost 39 minutes, 25, 4, 7.5 to 26, 7.5 and 7. Field goal percentage 44.5 to 51, 62 to 58. So 4 total wins difference. Although Derrick Rose wasn't necessarily playing with much then, but neither was, well, actually, yeah,
No.
LeBron had, that's right. That's first in Miami. So he had obviously the superior teammates and finished with a less record. So they didn't want to give it to LeBron. They found
and they
a
had
way to
another
say,
player with a great season and a good team that they wanted like they had another opportunity to give it out, so everybody just flocked to D Rose instead.
yeah.
The Dwight Howard,
Like,
that's a monster season there.
Oh yeah.
It's nuts.
23 and 14,
Dwight
2.5 blocks, almost 60% shooting.
You bet. That's, yeah.
Is this also the year that LeBron got robbed of Defensive Player of the Year by Marc Gasol, who had or was that maybe the next season? One of the years he got totally robbed for Defensive Player of the Year because they didn't want to give him one. And so they could say, well, Jordan won Defensive Player of the Year, but LeBron never did. But if you look at the Defensive Player of the year Marc Gasol won over LeBron, it is criminal when you look at
close
what happened. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
So this to me is a picturesque season where the MVP voting comes down to this the narrative that the Bulls are
number one seed,
the East best record, over 60 victories. They want
over
to jump on this
team
train
in
of
Miami.
and Derrick Rose is kind of leading that charge. So
yeah.
to me, it's that it fits the narrative well. And even though the Bulls that would end up losing to Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then Miami loses to Dallas in the finals. It's
just a complete magical run by Dirk, because he took out Kobe Bryant's Lakers that year. He took out Duncan Spurs, Ginobili, Parker Spurs that year. They every round was just an unbelievable feat by him. I think that was perhaps the toughest championship gauntlet that anybody has gone through that I in my recent memory.
Well, so
and don't forget he took out Steve Nash's sons at some point too.
Yeah. 2-time MVP Steve Nash's sons.
Well, so I'm looking at the bracket for that 2011 Western Conference. You had number 1 seed San Antonio losing to 8 seed Memphis in the first round.
Yes,
on
the
other
Grizzlies.
side, you had Dallas beating Portland, and then Dallas sweeps the Lakers 4-0. In the Western Conference Finals, they beat the Thunder 4-1.
Oh, the Thunder,
win in 6 games against the Heat. Like that, what a magical playoff ride that was for the Mavs.
All right,
this is a really intriguing one. And Scott, this wasn't even your dark horse, right? You still got your dark horse in here?
That was it.
No, nope. Still got my dark horse.
Yeah, he's still got.
I thought you said we agreed on that there.
Oh, I agree that Derrick Rose is there, but that's not my dark horse. I figured that one would be on everyone's list. That's worse than Malone sandwiched by one of MJ on each side. This is Derrick Rose undeservedly sneaking in between a pair of 2-peats from LeBron.
Yes, 4 LeBrons.
Yep.
All right, so clearly I have no qualms with the next 2. 322 win share.
That's nuts. Yeah, so I'm curious to look at Durant 2013-14, because both these years before the LeBron won, Durant had really good seasons, but just not quite as good. So is this more of we got to give him one because LeBron's getting all of them, or 295 win share. Check that one out. I'm just curious to see what's there.
Yeah, his scoring average was ridiculous. Rebounds were better. Assists are not that far off. Very similar seasons, and that enough to be 119-6. I don't think the disparity in voting should have been that high, but OKC 10, 11, so 11, 12. Did they just come off of a finals loss to the Heat? But yeah, I mean, he had Harden, Westbrook, and Ibaka. LeBron still had his big three, so very similar seasons. I can't blame them for giving it to Durant that year. I don't think the disparity should have been that high, but I'm not going to be like he didn't deserve to win MVP. So,
so this is your dark horse, Scott? This
Nope.
Okay. we're just looking to see who else was in the running here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with that year.
No qualms here.
Nope.
Okay.
Just the voting disparity. I feel like it should have been closer.
Yeah.
But I'm not upset that he won.
Steph first, you're last.
All right. Steph Curry's first MVP, 14-15. This made my honorable mention, but
not LeBron vote.
Huh?
The not LeBron vote.
The not LeBron, and I think Harden had a better year than him that year too. This might have been Harden's first year in Houston.
Yep.
I think he had a better year than Steph. And LeBron got third. This was LeBron's first year back in Cleveland, and they went from perennial first overall pick to the finals. So you tell me who has made their team more valuable. This has got to be, I don't know. This to me was I would say this is egregious.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the stats. He didn't beat out Harden or LeBron, I don't think, in any of them. The three of them were almost deadlocked in assists and steals. Not much difference there. Rebounds is close. He had the lowest of the three. Points, he had the lowest of the three. I mean, outside of him
up there
shooting
on win share, though.
Outside of him shooting crazy from 3-point percentage and free throws.
Yeah, but I mean, he does have a big statistical advantage on pretty much everybody on the win shares.
Yeah. LeBron's big downfall was that he just didn't play enough games that year.
Yeah.
Well, this was the kind of coming out party for the Warriors, right? When they really, they made such a clean sweep of this.
They won the title.
Playoffs.
Yep.
And this was the first of many titles to come over the next.
Yep.
And they shouldn't have won that title. LeBron played in the finals without Love or Irving and still won 2 games, had a 2-1 lead, relying on J.R. Smith, who we found out in a couple years can't really even count. I guess it's good he got a scholarship to go play golf and get into college now.
Well, I guess we agree on this one. So I was going to go big as this one's my dark horse here. But like as I looked at it, it's actually not that bad of a season. Like that, the 288 win share stands out. The 3-point field, 44%, 91% free throws. Like that's a pretty darn good season. But he probably didn't quite deserve that one.
I would have given it to Harden because are we sure this was his first year in Houston or was it his second? But 15, it might have been his second. But regardless, going to a new team, and I just think he had a sublime season that year, and I thought it was better than the one that Steph Curry put out. So
Yeah. So this one
played more minutes.
I look at this one where it's like he didn't deserve this one, but unlike Nash, I think the next year, I think Curry definitely deserved that one.
Yes, but
this one should have went to LeBron or Harden.
Yeah, so let's just look at Steph Curry's second one. He got 100% of the votes to become the first ever unanimous MVP, and I thought it was just disgraceful. I mean, come on.
Kawhi Leonard.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they set the record for most wins in a season. I can see the media's obsession with trying to crown a new face of the league.
45% from threes, 90% field goals, 318 win shares for 48 minutes, though. That's
I can't argue that he should have.
That takes the cake right there, that win share.
It might not be a unanimous MVP season, but that's an MVP season.
Yes. So no issues with his second.
Yeah. First one was my dark horse. Didn't think that one was deserved.
I have one more dark horse, and then I have my least deserving still.
Oh wow!
On the board,
Mr. Russell Westbrook.
Westbrook is my dark horse in our very next year, 16-17.
Yep, dude, pull up his stats. Click on Westbrook himself. He cannot, like, he averages triple doubles on shitty teams. He cannot put up points when he's got another superstar playing alongside of him, as evidenced by this year.
the Brody Russ Beastbrook. I did not know that was a Beastbrook, Mr. Triple Double. Okay, we're looking at averaging triple doubles, right?
Yep. It was like the 15, 16, 17, or the 16, 17, 18 years.
Where's the... Okay.
Over on the right.
Rebounds, 10. Man.
All right, so let's see the vote that year.
See, like, look how close this was, in the sense that, yeah, you have more first place votes for Mr. Beastbrook, but then in overall points won, like, this is much closer than many of the other, final ones that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So
this was only honorable mention, not necessarily because he didn't deserve it, but was it given to him because of the shock that somebody finally averaged a triple-double for a season for the first time in however long?
Well, he also won the scoring title that year, didn't he? At least of that group, he's at the top.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, out of all those players.
Yeah. So at the time, it made sense. Like, for me, he's the MVP. But then when I look back comparatively at seasons beyond that, pair him up with superstars, LeBron still has MVP seasons. Russell Westbrook just kind of like doesn't know what to do without the ball in his hands all the time.
Yeah. All right. So this leads me to my most egregious MVP consideration.
Okay.
This I think it plays into the fact that he should have won one out of the last three in there, but lost out to Westbrook's triple doubles, Steph Curry's Warriors in that first year. I think he should have won either of those. And James Harden, least deserving, most valuable player in my book. Only played 72 games, less minutes. He actually scored on the season less points than LeBron did, even though his average was higher because he played less games. Far less rebounds, less assists, similar steals and blocks. Shooting percentage, 44.9 to 54. I mean,
Close.
LeBron's just like massive amount of efficiency that year and like total domination. He should have been the MVP that year again. And I've already resigned to the fact that we're never going to give him another one because they didn't want him getting close to how many Michael had. At this point, it was like, we need to control this narrative, essentially. Yep. And to me, he was completely robbed this year.
How much of that, Justin, is because he left Cleveland? Do you think if he stayed in Cleveland, then the storyline would have been played out differently?
No. I think people that have the votes have a sense of nostalgia for MJ and just didn't want anything to really surpass that. So that's just where I feel like we ended up. And so this
Yep.
There we have it.
So I'm not so sure that it's the leaving, but the whole, like the whatever they call it, the ESPN special to like,
yes, the decision.
The decision. I don't think that helped at all. So I really think the way that it got played up did not help his case, not just leaving Cleveland, but
right.
Anyhow. So yeah,
right.
That one's up there, but I would think those are two pretty close seasons to me. Like that doesn't feel egregious to me unless you're looking at LeBron's extensive history of deserved MVPs, and then here's one that's not as, I don't know. This one doesn't have as much separation as other ones that LeBron should have won.
I think that we can explain some of this just by the completely unbiased Cleveland Cavaliers fan.
Yeah, by my counts, that's 1, 2, 3. So 17, 18 Harden, 10, 11 D Rose, 05, 06 Nash, 07, 08 Kobe, 04, 05 Nash, 14, 15 Kobe. That's 6. 6 he should have won on top of the 4 he did win. 10-time MVP LeBron James.
I have some other candidates, and especially the Nash years, but we'll give him 2 or 3 more than what he got.
That's MVP if we're keeping track at home from 2004, 2005 to 2017, 2018.
Tracy Grady should have been 04, 05.
A 13-year stretch.
All right. What do we got here? We got we got all the Europeans coming up next. So let's finish out with Team Europe.
Yeah, I didn't even look at any of these because I felt that they were recent enough that I felt that they were deserved regardless.
Yeah.
So I didn't really look at the differences.
Now, my question would be 2018-19. Let's say that Harden hadn't been gifted one because he should have gotten one earlier, and he still is without a trophy. Does Giannis win this one, or do we give it to Harden? Like, if Harden didn't already have his hardware, I think this one goes to Harden.
I don't know if I agree, but
when was the last time anybody averaged 36 points in a season? MJ?
Yeah.
Really? Like,
yeah, I feel like the last we saw was Kobe with 35.
Right. But I think before that, it was like the 37.0 or whatever that MJ had in his, like, early on in like the first stint of his career.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Mike D'Antoni offense, he's got the ball in his hand all the time. So that also plays into it.
Hey, it's Steve Nash, but he can score.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I don't know.
It's close, but I'm not upset that I can't really complain either way. I mean, almost basically 28, 12 and a half, and 6, 1.3, 1.5. That's 58% shooting. That's a pretty dominant season.
Yep.
I think for me, a trend or a pattern that's becoming more evident here is the kind of like season or the chapters you see that emerge over the years. So you've got, like older players riding off into the sunset, and then who's that newer system or who's that newer player that represents this new dynamic kind of team that's really hot that could go all the way in the league. And I think I'm just seeing more and more of these, like that Harden line where it's like, yeah, that's a fantastic season, but the Rockets were kind of middle of the Western Conference that year, and they didn't make it far. So that narrative is now like, oh, we've got this number 1 seed Bucks coming out of the East. Like these are the new kids on the block.
I'm interested to look at his next one. For some of those reasons, but also since LeBron won it the year after D Rose, when everyone was like, yeah, I think we effed that up, and had only played 62 games, unless that was the lockout. Was there a
Which
lockout?
Year?
LeBron's first MVP in Miami, his second season
2011 was
he played 62 games, but Giannis only played 63 this year. So
yeah, but
was this also a lockout?
That was a lockout year 2 years ago.
And this one was shortened because of COVID.
Yeah, that's right. Not a lockout year, but a COVID
so that's
year.
why he played so few games. All right. So that sort of outlies that rule there. But again, there's not too much you can complain about. I think LeBron giving you the Steve Nash leading the league in assists in like year 18, having a decently comparable run, but yeah, I can't be upset that Giannis got it. It's not as if he had terrible stats and they're like, we're just going to hold LeBron back. But if Nash is going to win it for leading the league in assists,
let's just say that a 25, 7, and 10 stat line when you're 35 years old in today's NBA, that's like, yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to see that again.
So we're talking, that's MVP number 11, and that spans a total of
11 Pete.
I heard
a total of 14 seasons.
I heard someone say the other day, I don't remember who it was, Justin, but I think you're right in the sense that we will come to respect LeBron's greatness in the more that he's out of the league. We'll look back and be like, this was absolutely freakish, like how good that he played, and that his name has come up on really top 4, top 5 for all these years.
Totally insane. Yeah.
I mean,
look at Luka Doncic there in 4th.
But we're so used to it that we don't realize how absurd it is. Yeah. I think talking about those like ebbs and flows and different chapters, I think this is going to be one of those new fixtures that we're going to see on the board for the next 5, maybe 10 years. We'll see.
I'm just hoping Luka wins one when he deserves one, and not because they skipped over him for give somebody a glory award.
Yep.
Lifetime achievement VP.
Yeah. So that's the other, when we were talking about Steve Nash, that got me thinking, like, there's some gentleman awards, right? There's kind of this like, all right, we gotta recognize this game at some point. Like, if you look at
originally awarded to Karl Malone,
and look at his age, 35, 33. Yeah. How old was Steve Nash? 30, 31. Like, I think some of the most egregious ones are probably like, we got to give this guy some hardware before they retire.
Yeah. Yep.
Couldn't agree more.
No, this is, I'm glad you pointed this basketball reference resource out. I've been on it, but I've never looked at this precise view of MVP.
Dude, you can, everything is linked to everything else, and you can just pull up Like this was so easy to just pull up all the voting record, and then you could click on the team and see what their record was that year, where they finished. It's it's the place to be.
I'm gonna stop the screen share here. Any parting thoughts?
Well,
Yeah, I don't.
We finished in 2021. Any thoughts?
Let's just take a quick look at Nikola. I don't think there can be any real complaints. There were just too many people, I think, got hurt last year and played so little because they crammed so many games together in a short time span to make up
only
after the
72
COVID.
games, right?
There were, and he played all of them and had a monster season nonetheless. I think people were like, Embiid should have been MVP. And I think if he played 70 games, he would have easily won the MVP last year. But
even if he had those, like, you look at those stats, I don't know, that's still a toss-up.
To me, but this is like the biggest piece of Jokic game that I absolutely love. I mean, the assist piece, like what he's doing as a big man, and that's what jumps out to me the most. Also, a scenario I consider is like, what if Embiid's minutes were up? How would that impact his numbers effectively? Would his efficiency go down? I mean, like a really impressive win share, but he's like, Embiid's hyper efficient in terms of the numbers that he's putting up in a relatively smaller number of minutes every game.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of emblematic of like his game and how the Sixers are going to play him.
Yep. Although, geez, look at those minutes played. Like that whole list down through there. That's all kind of like nobody's in the 40s or the high 30s even.
Yeah, and I think that's because they had so many back-to-back games because they put 72 games in far less time frame.
Yep.
So definitely an anomaly.
And 31 minutes. That's insane too. All right, so who we got in the all-times? For me, Derrick Rose. Honorable mention would go to Derrick Rose. 2014-15, Stephen Curry, third place. Second and first, both to one Steve Nash. You can pick which year. The only debate there is which year was the least deserving, but they're both right there at the top.
Yeah, I have so many on the list. Like, I feel like I talked myself into that 07-08 Kobe one just being like really undeserving, but deserving because he got none the rest of his career. And so like, I want to say that makes honorable mention is no, I'm going to put that in my top. Oh my gosh. No, I'm going to put that in my top three.
I think that 07-08 Kobe deserves the like, he wins the award for biggest snub. Like, but I
lifetime achievement, baby.
But in my mind, I don't think that is the least deserving. I don't know if that makes sense. For me, Steve Nash is the most egregious winner of the award, and then Kobe Bryant's the biggest snub.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so I've got Steve Nash. Probably got to put him at the top. Just give him the combo for both years, and then I'm going to go with the Harden, the Kobe, and the D Rose, and then Curry's first.
Okay.
Down the list.
There it is, folks.
Anything you want to throw out there, Mr. Ogden, about somebody who won something that didn't deserve to? Perhaps not league MVP, but a special distinction for the least deserving finals MVP.
Yes, the least deserving finals MVP. I was so pissed.
The LDF MVP.
Andre Iguodala wins the finals MVP in 2015 for his stellar, unparalleled defense, shutting down LeBron James, and on the way to the Warriors. I just pissed me off so much. But
Could
again,
not bring it up.
This is probably more of my Warriors hatred just coming out too.
No, I don't think so. If you ask me, LeBron should have won Finals MVP that year regardless. But Andre Iguodala definitely shouldn't have won it over any of his teammates. So
yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to it. There's LeBron, like in and again, this is like there's this whole back and forth debate of like, is regular season MVP, is Finals MVP, is it the person that had the biggest impact on the series or the one that fits the narrative and on the winning team? And for me, it's like the LeBron had a much bigger impact just keeping them in that series. And then, yeah, Clay, Steph, I think you could even make a case for Draymond having better. Like, that's another one of those gentlemen's awards.
Harrison Barnes. All right.
Dude, it's crazy looking down that list, though. I just pulled it up. Like, every one of these names are all-time. Even when you go back like before the 90s, it's like when the NBA did their 50 greatest of all time in 96, every one of the names on there, it's like James Worthy, Magic, Larry Bird, Kareem, Moses Malone. There's one odd one in there, Cedric Maxwell, JoJo White. Okay, that's a funny one. He must have just had a great series. But other like Willis Reed, John Havlicek, Wilt, Kareem, Willis Reed, Jerry West. But then the modern era, it's all MJ, Hakeem, Shaq, Duncan, Dwayne Wade, Paul Pierce, Kobe Bryant, Andre Iguodala. It's so out of place.
That's right.
Who won Finals MVP the year the Pistons won? Billups?
Chauncey Billups. Yeah, so that one, I mean, somebody had to win
but
it.
There
but
wasn't.
That was an incredible team. That was a team that played so well together. Somebody had to win it. But
yeah, there was 5 names that all
from
of them.
Coatesville, PA would have taken it home, but I'm all right with Chauncey.
Yeah, 5 guys with similar star power. But
Ben Wallace shutting down Shaq.
Big Ben, baby.
Big Ben.
This has been
all right.
an eventful conversation.
So one last thing before we sign off for the week. Steal a Base, Steal a Taco happening early in Game 1 of the World Series. So on Thursday, head out to Taco Bell and get your free Dorito Locos taco. Or if you have the app, like my main man, Mr. Justin Ogden, you could just get a free taco whenever you feel like going.
Get it sooner.
Hey, buddy.
No need to wait.
Scott, thanks for joining us this week. We look forward to hearing your sympathy pains from Ben Simmons leaving the storied franchise of the Philadelphia 76ers as the saga plays out.
City that has athletes that leave all the time. We're used to
it. We'll carve out some time later in the season for kind of a group therapy session with other disenfranchised Sixers players.
Plus, we need to have you on to talk about Sacktown and the City Edition jerseys. So
yeah, I want to put my Sacktown right on my jersey,
And on that note,
over to Cream City. Peace, y'all.
Yo quiero taco ball, baby.
Live in Mas. Live in Mas. Good night, my friends.
See ya.
Yes.